skip to contend. The White House is expected to announce Friday that President Trump will again waive nuclear-related sanctions on Iran, keeping the landmark nuclear deal intact, but will add economic sanctions on Iranian businesses and leaders for support of terrorist groups across the Middle East and other misconduct. Under U.S. law, the White House must periodically agree to waive the nuclear-related sanctions that were eased as part of the 2015 agreement between Iran and 6 world powers, including the United States. Failing to do so could put the United States in violation of the accord. Trump has sharply criticized the agreement and vowed to rip it up, but his national security advisors have urged him to wait while they work with Congress and U.S. allies in an effort to strengthen its provisions. As he did in October, Trump is likely to decline to certify to Congress that the nuclear agreement is in America's best interest. In his view, Iran benefited because the lengthy negotiations to block Tehran's path to a bomb did not include the nation's development of ballistic missiles, support for militant groups and human rights abuses. Non-certification to Congress does not affect the actual accord, but consequences would have been far-reaching if Trump had decided not to continue waiving the nuclear-related sanctions. It would defy other members of the United Nations Security Council, which backed the deal, as well as most U.S. allies. It also could hand Iran a pretext to start limiting UN inspections or restart its nuclear program. Sticking with the deal but imposing new non-nuclear sanctions while seeking to change the agreement was a compromise position. Many aspects of the Iran deal need to be changed, Treasury Secretary Stephen T. Mnuchin said ahead of the announcement. Congressional leaders have begun to look at ways to rewrite several key provisions of the nuclear deal, including possibly eliminating sunset clauses and requiring more intrusive inspections, although it's unlikely Iran would agree. Most U.S. trade with and investment in Iran already is banned under separate U.S. sanctions for human rights abuses, ballistic missiles and support for terrorism, but the administration and its supporters said more are needed. The deeply flawed Obama-Iran deal should not be a grant of immunity to Iran from sanctions related to non-nuclear activities, Sen. Marco Rubio, our FLA, said Thursday. He called for new sanctions on the Iranian government, banks and any entity or individual who supports the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, an elite force that conducts many of Iran's operations in Syria, Lebanon and elsewhere. European allies had strongly urged the White House to stick with the nuclear deal, saying a decision to abandon it would strain the transatlantic partnership. French President Emmanuel Macron, in a telephone call with Trump on Thursday, stressed France's determination to see the strict application of the deal and the importance of all the signatories to respect it, Macron's office said. The smooth implementation of the agreement should be accompanied by a stepped-up dialogue with Iran on its ballistic missile program and its regional policy in order to guarantee greater stability in the Middle East, the French statement added. Trump told Macron that Iran had to stop its destabilizing activity in the region, the White House said. If you walk away, you have to look at what's next, said Simon Gass, a former British ambassador to Tehran who took part in the negotiations that produced the agreement. It inevitably brings to mind questions as to the predictability of U.S. behavior. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the Vienna-based UN agency that conducts nuclear inspections in Iran, has repeatedly verified that Iran is in compliance with the accord, which required Tehran to dismantle its main nuclear reactor, drastically cut back on uranium enrichment, get rid of thousands of centrifuges and export most of its heavy water. In exchange, most international sanctions on Iran were eased, allowing the country to trade on the global oil market and rejoin international banking systems. Widespread protests in Iran over the last 2 weeks have focused on the country's faltering economy, however, as well as high unemployment and government corruption.